Hey, I am generally curious about how men perceive eye contact. I have read a lot about it on the internet, but I would love to know your thoughts. If a woman keeps making eye contact with you from a distance but you have not had a conversation yet, would you take it as a sign that she is interested? Story 1. I would never take that alone as a sign of her being interested. I look at and hold eye contact with women I am not necessarily attracted to for many potential reasons. I assume women are mostly the same. Story 2. If a woman kept making eye contact with me from a distance, I would assume she either thought I was someone else or was judging me in some way or was just spacing out. I do that and end up looking at people by accident a lot too. Either way, I would never take eye contact as an indication that she wants me or anything like that. Story 3. Men, how many times have you looked back and realized a girl was interested in you but you missed the signs at the time? Never. If she cannot express herself clearly, there is nothing to remember. How men perceive eye contact. It is simply eye contact. Beyond the exchange of light, it is pretty meaningless. She could be staring into space, and I just happen to walk into her line of sight. So it is instantly forgettable. This happens every day. If a woman keeps making eye contact with you from a distance but you have not had a conversation yet, would you take it as a sign that she is interested? No. Even if I did, I would also take it as a sign that she would expect me to do the work of communicating her thoughts, feelings, needs, and desires for her. So I would not act on it anyway. Story 4. The problem with women is that they do not know how to flirt. They just look at you as if you are the ugliest thing they have ever seen or give a deer in the headlights look, so you just move on and ignore it. Story 5. I make eye contact with 100 people a day. It is not a sign unless you are staring me down like a starving wolf and I am the tastiest lamb. There have been many times I have looked back and realized there were signs, or even more obvious indicators, like the girl who was literally in my bedroom waiting for me. However, women need to understand that at some point, men will assume she is not interested unless it is explicitly expressed or said. Men will not accept signs because it is not safe. Story 6. 22 and 0. And eye contact from a distance without a conversation would be a sign of interest. I may try to talk if possible, but it would have to be the right environment and very obvious. Story 7. Often, but not because she made eye contact, it was typically much more painfully obvious to me, of course only in retrospect. Eye contact and any other hint with built-in plausible deniability are worthless and completely lost on me. I will literally never think about it again when it happens. Story 8. Men have other priorities in their lives besides looking for women to make eye contact with. If you see me out and about doing things, I will not stop to look at you most of the time. Make your intentions known with words. Stop trying to psychically communicate with men. Story 9. If she cannot communicate her interest directly, then I am probably in for a bunch of hints. Forget hints. The only one who gets to give me hints is my dog, and that is because he cannot talk. Story 10. Do you know how many friends I have or have had who are girls in my life tell me? Just because I make eye contact with you does not mean I am interested. Well, men listened. So eye contact does not mean much to me, regardless of the setting. Story 11. I have missed my fair share of more obvious signs, but eye contact is the bare minimum of human interaction, so that alone will mean nothing to me. Story 12. May I direct you to this video which explains why you should not rely on eye contact. If you like a man, please be obvious about it. Obvious things are talking to him, complimenting him, handing him your phone number or Instagram handle on a napkin, asking if he wants to get a drink or coffee. Even with these obvious things, he may just think you are being nice because men are often oblivious. By the way, if I catch a woman looking at me multiple times, I am going to assume I have made some social mistake with my appearance. Story 13. It's not just eye contact. I had multiple girls aggressively flirting, and it went right over my head. Story 14. I know who is interested in me, but if she does not do anything beyond eye contact, chances are I will not either. Therefore, it will not go anywhere. Story 15. If a woman keeps making eye contact with you from a distance but you have not had a conversation yet, would you take it as a sign that she is interested? Story 16. The only times I have been certain a girl was interested in me were the few occasions when I was taken, and a girl who was not my partner was always laughing too hard at my bad jokes. I was not even laughing at what I was saying, yet they thought it was the funniest thing ever said. I have never been single and aware enough to recognize it in the moment. I find that once you stop looking, the signs that women consider obvious actually become somewhat clear. Story 17. No, not at all. A woman would have to do more than that. I might be curious, but that is not enough of a signal. For all I know, it could be someone behind me or something on my shirt. Story 18. A lot. Eye contact. Look, I had a woman jump into bed with me and I was not sure about her intentions. She married me, but it took a while. Story 19. It is actually a good question. I kind of regret not realizing it at the time. I was in a symphonic choir with her. She had a very particular look, beautiful but unique. This was when I had just started college. She came to rehearsals several times and always paid a lot of attention to me. Honestly, I wasn't used to that. Once, I had cried for some reason I can't even remember before going to rehearsal. I was incredibly surprised when she asked me, "Daniel, why were you crying?" I was surprised because it had been almost an hour earlier, and I am sure it wasn't noticeable at all. One day, she came to the choir just to tell me she was leaving because she had been accepted to study medicine. I was shy and didn't say much. We didn't interact much, only for a few days, but I still remember her beautiful brown eyes. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not a nostalgic person, and later on I was fortunate enough with women. But it was such a gentle, innocent interaction with her that I would truly love to meet her again someday. We never saw each other after the day she left the choir. I wonder if she ever thought of me again. Story 20. A few times, but we have both gone different ways and lived lives that do not include each other. In that moment, she was ready to try it out, see what I was all about. But when I missed it, she moved on to the next person who could get his attention and built a whole life on that journey. Sometimes I run into them again years later and get greeted with a warm smile, a friendly hello, or worse, a cold acknowledging nod. It is nice to know that at some point I was interesting to someone and they still remember, but I cannot think on it too much because it is just a fantasy. Story 21. Unless she is deaf, I will not be looking for signs. We are halfway through 2025. Use your grown-up words, ladies. Story 22. I usually never realize it. When I do, it is because they were not subtle, but I either was not interested or not in the right headspace. If women have been interested in me, they have been very bad at communicating it. Story 23. 1. A few times, it feels terrible to realize that. 2. I try to avoid eye contact if it is someone I am not socializing with, for example, a random person across the room, because I do not want to be a creep. If a woman made eye contact with me, I would not think anything of it. Story 24. So many times. So many. Estimated time of arrival. If a woman kept making eye contact with me at a bar, I would assume I was making her uncomfortable. If she makes eye contact with me and smiles, I would just nod and move on. I figure it was a case of, hey, we made eye contact, so better make a polite acknowledgement and leave her alone, so she does not think I am staring at her like a creep. If she makes eye contact with me, smiles and gestures for me to approach, I would start looking around to see if I am about to be set up for something. Either that, or I would assume she was gesturing to someone behind me. Story 25. I assume she felt threatened and made eye contact to show she knew I was looking at her. Then I stopped looking. Story 26. I am a 27-year-old male. I just realized this year that every time a girl told me I had nice hands, she was likely flirting with me. Story 27. Not at all. That is a pretty vague sign. How many times have I found out I missed a bunch of vague signs? A lot. Story 28. A few months ago, I was out with some friends and thought a girl was giving me the eye. We kept making eye contact across the bar the entire night. I walked over to ask for her number and was immediately shut down. I simply raised my hands and said, "Okay, no problem. Sorry to bother you." So yeah, the eyes alone are not enough for me. In general, you have to be pretty direct with me if you want to show you are interested. I'm sure I've missed some signs before, but at the end of the day, I'm also tired of trying to guess. Guys are always expected to make the first move, and for once, it would be refreshing if a girl made the first move. Typically, I've had the best success when a girl tactfully starts a conversation with me first. It's pretty obvious once you start talking if they are just being friendly or genuinely interested. If they make slight physical contact with your arms or hands, that's another good indicator. Suggest spending one-on-one time together, and from there you should have a better idea. In my experience, being direct usually works better than being subtle. Story 29. I would probably wonder if my zipper is wide open and my phallus is exposed to the wind. The only place I would interpret eye contact as a sign of interest is in a nightclub. Story 30. If she is interested in me, she can communicate it clearly. I am not interested in playing games or catching hints. Story 31. I believe we get all the signs. The reason we do not care or act unintelligent is that the signals are not from a woman we want. If we are interested in someone or want to be with them, we even take hello as a sign. Story 32. Too many. As for eye contact, I would not take that alone as a sign of attraction. I also struggle with eye contact myself, so chances are I will not notice. Story 33. When I was about 17, I was in the back of a friend's car with a girl I really liked. My friend was in the front with another girl I went to college with. The driver told the girl in the front that I really liked the girl in the back, so she went out of her way to embarrass me in front of her. I don't know why anyone would date him. He's ugly, smelly, and lucky you are not in here. It's awful. At the next college disco, the girl I liked would not talk to me. The girl in the front seat who had embarrassed me, she threw herself at me. I had no idea she was very attracted to me. I learned an important lesson that night. Sometimes other people's intentions are completely different from what they appear to be. Only later is this sometimes revealed. Story 34. Many times, yes. A contact, no. I assume I have something on my face or she will mock me to her friends sometime later. When men, children, and elderly people make eye contact, I do not assume it is interest either. Eye contact is just a human thing. It does not mean anything. Story 35. Eye contact occurs when the focal point of one person's field of vision aligns with the focal point of another person's field of vision. Overlapping fields of vision are not a certain sign of attraction. Overlapping fields of vision do not indicate a hint. Relying on overlapping fields of vision to convey a sign is unwise or mistaken. Story 36. I would do nothing based on eye contact alone. You can meet eyes with many people regularly just by passing each other often, such as if you work in the same office. If a woman wants something, using hints is not the way to go. A man can easily have a complaint filed against him if he acts on what he thinks is a hint from a woman. If there is interest on your side, making the first move is best. Start the first conversation and see how it goes from there. Men are generally cautious or oblivious to hints being sent. Story 37. My anxiety and low self-esteem would never allow me to think she was interested. I would wonder if my fly was open or if I had something on my shirt or some other worry. Story 38. If I recall correctly, most women tend to avoid me or start ignoring me in conversations by gradually slowing down their responses. Story 39. There is one person in particular. I sensed she might have been interested in me, but I told myself she was not, because I had misinterpreted another person's similar signals in the past. Years later, after she was already married, all evidence pointed to her liking me all those years ago. Oh well. Story 40. Eye contact is not enough to rely on. I have had enough experiences with someone who kept making eye contact and otherwise giving the typical signs of wanting to chat, but was met with disinterest before I could even say hello. Unless I receive a clear signal, I am not going to bother. Story 41. I have missed some obvious signs once or twice, probably mostly when I was younger and had no life experience. I remember in my 20s I had an opportunity to have a threesome with 2 women, and I was too dense to realize it at the time. Afterwards, I kicked myself. The next time the opportunity arose, I was less naive about the signals because I learned from my mistakes. Regarding your second question about eye contact, I am okay with noticing it, but I do not find it attractive. I also know many women, and many are not assertive enough to make a move or give signals like this. To be honest, I really do not like women who do things like that. It is low effort and unattractive. If all you do is look at me from across the room without putting in actual effort, I find that a little creepy and pathetic. If a man only stared at a woman from across the room, that would be creepy and pathetic too. If you are genuinely interested in me, you have to be at least a little bold to put yourself out there, or you will not get a chance. Story 42. At school, I had a group of friends for a while, which included 2 girls. I talked to them quite a lot. One of them lived not far from me. At school, she was a smart, beautiful, excellent student, generally much above my league, since my low self-esteem blocked the thoughts that anyone could like me at all. So I just maintained friendly communication to the best of my ability. Years passed. In a conversation with my female friend, we talked about all this. She asked about it for a long time with bewilderment and then blurted out, "Odabanus Rosmar, how come you didn't understand this right away?" It was flirting. It then dawned on me that these were really pickup lines. Story 43. Eye contact is not a sign. As for actual signs, it is the full spectrum. Some I have missed, others I was uncertain about, and some I recognized but chose not to pursue. Story 44. Answer to title. Never. If I didn't know then, I would never know later unless I was directly told. That happened to me once. I met a girl again after a long time who I had feelings for. She told me that she was actually into me back then, but I never picked up on her hints, and she was too shy to be direct. If she hadn't told me, I would never have known and would have continued thinking she was never interested. Answer to post. I would either get nervous, irritated, or curious why she was staring at me so much. I would start wondering if I had something on my face or if she was looking at someone behind me. I would never take eye contact alone as a sign of interest. Story 45. I've realized it twice, but the signals were 10,000 times more than just a look. If eye contact and look are your signals, then I won't even notice them. In fact, if the signal is just a look, I'll assume I'm so unattractive or that something is wrong with me, and she needs time to process what she sees. Story 46. Eye contact means you are paying attention or looking in my general direction. It is not a signal of attraction. If she is attracted, she needs to use a more direct method of communication. Story 47. During my single and mingle days, if I caught eye contact, I would give a smile and a nod. If she responded with a smile or positively, then that would be an opening for me to approach sometime during the night. If she looked away, then maybe she just made incidental eye contact by accident. If she kept staring, then maybe she was looking at someone else and I would leave them be. Story 48. No, I would not. Also, I never looked back to realize it because we do not, in fact, pick up on things. The few times I missed the hints, the woman later clearly told me or made it more obvious. That said, my ex read through all of my high school yearbook signatures and notes and pointed out several girls she thinks liked me. I am not sure I buy it. Story 49. No. Eye contact is not enough to tell me someone is interested. If you smile and make eye contact, that might be slightly more helpful. Still, the best way to show a man you are interested is to approach him. Story 50. If a girl is kind to you, wants to spend time with you, and asks about your day, she probably likes you. Do not be afraid to make the first move. That way you can clarify things between you. Story 51. About 3 times, which I found out about later. I'm pretty oblivious to how women flirt and show interest. One was the sister of a girl I dated briefly in high school. Another was the sister of a woman I worked with. The last one was a married woman I worked with. The married woman, who clearly flirted with me, I assumed was just teasing because I was 6 years younger and she was married. Later, after she left the store where we worked, I found out she was married to an abusive man. I think she was flirting with me looking for a way out, and I didn't realize it. That situation bothered me the most because she was a sweet and beautiful woman. I only found out when her daughter came to work as a cashier in the store, and by then I was already married. Story 52. Not necessarily. Sometimes, yes, but I have been accused of liking a few guys for staring or because we kept making eye contact. However, I only kept looking at them because 1. Their haircut looks funny, 2. I am trying to figure out if they are an old friend or cousin. 3. They resemble someone I know but I cannot figure out who. 4. Purely an accident or coincidence. It really depends on the person and your past interactions. Story 53. A girl in middle school asked me to a movie, but I thought it was fake because I was bullied at the time. Now, all these years later, I think she was actually interested. Story 54. I was working at a restaurant and regularly flirted with waitresses I knew were single. One time, I went into the walk-in cooler, and a waitress followed me in and said, "Our supervisor thinks we're dating. How crazy is that?" I grabbed what I needed and said, "Yeah, that's crazy. I have no idea where she got that idea," then walked out. As the door shut, I realized I might be a moron. I still think about that girl. She left that job shortly after. Story 55. My answer is yes. I am pretty oblivious to a woman's advances. She could be relatively direct and eye me up, and I still would not clue in. It would take a massive amount of hints for me to get it, or she would have to be really direct. I am more of a pursuer, so I do not really think about women who are into me. If you try to use eye contact as a way to suggest your interest, you may as well give up because we do not believe that is a sign of interest. Story 56. Many times, I felt embarrassed because it affected me for days, weeks, or even months. Story 57. If a woman keeps making eye contact with you from a distance but you have not had a conversation yet, would you take it as a sign that she is interested? No, she probably has other things to do and does not want to be bothered. How many times have you looked back and realized a girl was into you but you missed the signs at the time? Many times. That is not counting the ones that just make eye contact. I am talking about full conversations, even hugs. It takes me weeks to realize that maybe they were interested. Story 58. I do not interpret interest solely based on eye contact. However, I do notice more obvious signals. I would not consider myself oblivious. Story 59. No, usually the signs I missed as a young man were pretty overt, and I would not consider a woman consistently making eye contact with me to be a sign that she was interested. I would consider something like a smile or a wink to be a sign. Story 60. A lot of times, I knew and did not care because I do not respond to the plausible deniability brand of interest. Story 61. However, those who never notice it probably make up the majority of your data points. By asking it this way, you have missed all of them. Story 62. Never, meaning that looking back, I cannot think of a single time when a girl was interested. I have had friends and relatives who claimed that a girl was interested, but I called nonsense then and I call it now. Because that sort of thing does not happen to me. I may be ugly, defective, and hopeless, but I am not stupid. And if any woman was ever interested, then thank God I was too oblivious to know, because I unknowingly saved her from a train wreck, me. Story 63. 2 times. The first occurred at school, and the second involved a girl I met online while playing a video game. Story 64. That would require me to make eye contact with her from a distance. Even then, if it is just one short moment of eye contact, I may take it more as a compliment than as her actually being interested. But it happens less than once a year, probably less than once every 2 years. Story 65. No idea. My ex-girlfriend was convinced there were some interested in me at my school, but she wasn't around, and female friends from that time say there probably weren't. One time I was confused by behavior and asked a female friend who said there was interest, and I had a short relationship there later. But realized myself? Never. I don't assume people are into me. I have a history of talking too much about stuff people aren't that interested in, so I try to avoid initiating. I don't approach people in general, and if I am approached, I assume a friendly, platonic manner unless there are very clear signs to the contrary. I have had female friends who clearly told me they aren't interested in anything more cuddle with me before. There is no scale. Also, I am bisexual and I work with clear rules that I try to keep similar for all genders I interact with. So if I start assuming people who interact with me are into me, I can't be friends with anyone. Same in reverse. If I can't just be friends even when I find someone attractive, I could only be friends with people who I honestly don't want to even interact with. My attraction is very related to behavior, less to looks. Seems a sad existence. This means unless someone is basically already friends with me and then either tells me they are interested or is actively flirting enough for me to be very confused and go ask my female friends, Generally, I have once been propositioned by a man, and that was obvious, but if a man starts acting weird, I might ask both male and female friends. Based on that information, I decide what to do. If someone is very flirty without me feeling like they are good, nice people yet, probably nothing will happen either way. Weird behavior makes me uncomfortable, so I leave. Story 66. After reading the responses here, I am assured that I have never had a girl who was interested in me. You cannot miss the signs if you have never had them. Story 67. Gosh, eye contact barely means anything. How does she interact with you? Do you two vibe? There is much more to observe. I have missed signs before, but that was all while I was in high school. I am 27 now, and the situation has significantly changed. Story 68. So many times I would rather not think about it. I would facepalm so hard I might give myself a concussion. I do not need chronic traumatic encephalopathy in addition to all the cringe. A few times I have gone back the next day or week hoping I would get a second chance. Never have. Story 69. No, I assume you are scared and keeping an eye on me so you can move if I start heading in your direction. If you want to have a relationship with an adult, you should communicate with mature words. Story 70. When she asked, "Are you down to feast?" I thought she meant the newly opened spot in our area, Din Tai Fung. I told her I might go next week instead since the queue is crazy. She just said, "Never mind." And we haven't spoken since. What can I say? A man has to eat. Story 71. I am pretty sure there are fewer stars in the universe than the number of times I missed the signal, only to realize it 5 minutes later. Story 72. I don't think eye contact is generally enough of a sign to make a move. I have missed more obvious signs than just eye contact. Story 73. It seems like you upset a lot of gentlemen with this post. I have looked back and definitely agonized over a few women who were sending me clear signals in college, but my low self-esteem convinced me that I was wrong and that no one would ever feel that way about me. Prolonged eye contact and a smile would at least encourage me to say hello. I have only had a handful of encounters like that, but those are some of the more obvious signs. Story 74. Dear Lord, sometimes you have to figuratively whack them over the head. Spell it out and they still do not get it. Even the smart kids miss the obvious signs. Story 75. I was walking home with a group of my friends. She stopped and offered me a ride home. I said, "I don't think we will all fit in." She drove off. One person told me I was in her dreams. I just said, "Ha, weird." Story 76. If a girl made eye contact with me from a far distance, chances are I would not notice. Even if I did, I would assume she was staring out of confusion. Story 77. It has never happened to me. I have known a few women who were interested in me in my life, but I did not act on it. The times it happened, I was either not interested or not single. If I have missed signals, I have never realized it upon later reflection. Story 78. I can think of at least several. Also, I am sure there have been times I did not even realize after the fact. I believe I have been aware of a woman interested in me in the moment about 3 to 4 times in my life. Story 79. To be honest, I always think they are all into me, but I do not have to try and have sex with them all. No regrets. Story 80. Not in a romantic way, but a week ago I learned that if you maintain eye contact with a girl for over 2/3 of the time in a club, she is interested enough for you to approach her and talk, no guarantees. An ex-girlfriend of a friend told me that when a guy makes eye contact with a girl and she is not attracted, she instantly turns her head the other way. My autistic self asked her to demonstrate both cases, and when she turned her head, it was obvious. I felt bad for 15 minutes, realizing the number of girls I maintained eye contact with but did not talk to, probably around 3 or 4 for long, repeated looks and 6 to 8 for shorter periods per night. Later, after analyzing what I was told, I concluded that the sustained eye contact felt familiar, which made me mad because it meant I had failed a lot. However, the head turn indicating a lack of interest caught me off guard because it was so quick. I realized I was caught off guard because I had not experienced it often, so my self-esteem was better than before. Roughly in 5 or 6 times I went clubbing, I only experienced this 2 or 3 times that I could visibly remember. Once from a girl with a partner and the other 2 were extremely attractive, so I never stood a chance anyway. Story 81. When I was in third grade, I was playing my PlayStation 2 on a Friday night. I got a phone call and answered it. It was a girl that I somewhat liked at that time. I could hear giggling in the background, and the girl asked me on a date. My instincts told me this was a joke, so I gave an excuse and hung up. I took it as them just trying to mess with me and left it alone. The next night, the same thing happened. I was playing my PlayStation 2 when I got another call. I answered it, and it was a different girl. There were no laughs or other people in the background this time. She talked to me for about 10 minutes, explaining she was too shy to call me directly and had her friends call me instead. She also explained that she liked me and why she liked me. I did not know how to take it at the time, so I assumed it was her messing with me and hung up. In hindsight, I think I accidentally shut some poor girl down by hanging up on her. I hope she is doing well these days. Story 82. 2 times, and I'm not proud of either. 1. Her name was Felicia, pronounced Felicia. I saw her write her name while leaning over to help with homework. I immediately pronounced it as Felicioh. She laughed, thinking I was joking, and I played along. Somehow, she ended up back at my dorm room. I had a TV, no streaming, and no local channels. I had just gotten it a few days prior. All I had was an Xbox. So we played Halo for a few hours. She was stretching, yawning, leaning on me. And what did I do? I said, "Do you want to take a nap? Don't let me keep you if you're tired. We're only playing Halo." I didn't realize until a few months later she Skyped me over summer break and changed into full nudes in front of the camera. 2. In college, an alumna came to visit. When I walked into the room, she stopped talking. She looked wide-eyed at me, and I heard her asking others about me. After talking to a few friends, I confirmed she thought I was very handsome, literally lusting for me. That was way out of the norm for me. I told my friends that as well. Her biggest move on me was when we were playing pool on teams. She leaned over to shoot and asked me for pointers. I got behind her, and before I could make a suggestion, she backed into me. She had a lot to back up. She kept doing this until I got frustrated and said, "Your form is all wrong, and the stick is too high." I'm an idiot, I know. Even that wasn't enough to deter her. We met a few times, nothing physical. It was very much a missed opportunity. Story 83. About 12 years ago, I lived a few blocks from a woman I was hanging out with, hoping to develop our friendship further. She invited me to her house, and we watched a movie called Perfume. It was romantic, and we liked it. We were on the couch, and after the movie ended, it was around midnight. She offered for me to stay over. However, I didn't want to sleep on the couch, and my house was just down the road. So I said, "Thanks, but I think I'll just head home. Good night." Later, she told me that when she said stay over, she meant stay in her room. Story 84. I would personally assume this was a sign of interest. However, many men might miss that sign or still be too reluctant to approach. Picking up on the signs is something that comes with more time and experience with women over the years. Looking back to my younger self, I definitely kick myself for missing out on so many situations. I rarely miss the signs now, though. Women are going to need to become more aggressive and start walking over and saying hello to men. We have been beaten over the head with men being creepy and other negative stereotypes. "Don't look at me," "Don't approach me," and similar messages have made a lot of men honestly not even look for signs of interest, much less act on them. I personally will still make a move, though. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.